Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. I will be your host, Thrones, bringing you a role-playing build known as the Bone Digger. The Bone Digger in a nutshell is a role-playing build intended specifically for a niche casual playstyle, questing around and a all-around normal content. It is in no way made for veteran content, it is not made for min-maxing, nor is it made for any type of difficult content or veteran dungeons. The build revolves around being a necromancer with the aesthetic fascination to skeletal remains, while also using the theme of Thorvald and his disease pit. We are all about utilizing the Thorvald set as our main foundation. The Bone Digger can be any race, any gender, but I highly recommend the Necromancer class. However, if being a Necromancer doesn't appeal to you or you don't own the class itself, you can always go with a Dragon Knight and using the Dragon Knight abilities, as it possesses Toxic Breath and many other great abilities, which could go around well with a Thorvald inspired character. While it can be any race and any gender, we will be showing you my iteration, which is a Nord. And this time, because they are related to dragons, considering the old dragon cult and stuff, I have an excuse using a Nord. But you can try any other class, any other race, pardon me. If you find Dwemer more your liking, or Argonian, or whatever, you can go with it. Our character has been a treasure hunter for decades, who also was a devote of Periite. As such, his knowledge in diseases was his ace card. He's self-reliant, resourceful, and pragmatic, and prioritizes survival and success over things like triad principles and dogma. Over time, he grew more comfortable with the presence of the undead in the crypts and ruins he explored. When he faced a life-or-death situation while exploring the dungeon called Fanglair, where necromancers are attempting to resurrect a once-living dragon. So he did the only thing he could do. He threw away all his morals and beliefs of the Taskmaster, who is in charge with maintaining the proper order. He wielded the bones of the fallen around him to fight at his side. Using that with his knowledge over diseases, did he survive the ordeal. Upon finally being able to defeat Thorvald did his mind finally go insane, as he did not only become fascinated with this disease, but with the deceased as well. And as such, our character's story begins. And now, for the build. So, for our character, we went with a Nord, obviously at this point, and our character is a Necromancer to fit all the bone digging experience. However, as I mentioned before, you could go with a Dragon Knight if you don't own the Necromancer class or don't like the bone digging aesthetics as well. I went full stamina on this one. I'm having a decent number of weapon damage and weapon critical. I went with the Thief's Stone and I'm using Dubious Camorian Throne. Because we are a Nord, we are much more surviving than any other race, except maybe Imperials or Argonians or whatever. But since the race is usually used for tanking all around, the character or the race itself will always feel a little bit more sturdy compared to other races that are meant for damage itself. But since this is a role-playing build, that does not matter. So yeah. For our abilities, I went with a little bit more damage focused setup, but you could always play around and put whatever the heck you want. For my main spammable, I'm using the Venom Skull. It deals poison damage and it is a nice skill to use. However, if you don't like the Venom Skull, you could always try with another spammable, for example Flurry, or maybe even Shrouded Daggers. Go whatever the heck you want. For the second ability, I'm using Detonating Siphon. It deals disease damage and yeah, disease. Nothing more to add to that. Blighted Blastbone, disease damage, Exploding Corpse. I mean, yeah. Beautiful. I'm using Camouflaged Hunter. The only reason I'm using this is for the Major Savagery, increasing my weapon critical and gaining Minor Berserk if we are dealing critical damage from an enemy backside or side side. However, there's another bonus if we go to the Fighters Guild skill line. The Slayer passive, basically for every skill is slotted, increases your damage. However, if you don't like this skill, you could always slot on whatever the heck you want. Pardon. You could always try out Bone Totem or Grave Grasp, maybe even play around with the Living Death skill line. But yeah, for my last one I'm using Resolving Vigor because I do not have any other healing source except the CP, but we'll get there in a second. But if you don't like this one and want to be a little bit more Necromancer, you can always slot on Spirit Mender, maybe even any of these basically. For my ultimate, I went with Pestilent Colossus. It deals disease damage and implies major vulnerability to the enemy hit, increasing their damage taken by 10%. For our back bar, we are using Poison Arrow. Since we're going with the bow skill line or bow weapon on the back bar, I'm going with Poison Injection and Endless Hail for a little bit more damage. However, if you do not like the bow and want to go with the two-hander, for example, you could always go with Cleave, and if you want to execute, you can always go with Reverse Slash. However, I will be using the bow, so Poison Injection and Endless Hail. For the second ability, I'm using Unnerving Boneyard. The reason I'm using this is to apply a little bit of Major Breach to the enemies. If you don't like it, I mean, I don't know, do whatever the heck you want. You could slot on maybe the Scythe's ability on the front bar, for example, or on the back bar and just play around with your abilities. Maybe you go this one in here and then just slot on Runia's Scythe. However, I will be going with my classical skills, so no change there. Where is my bone? Yeah, there it is. For our fourth ability, it's Necrotic Potency, basically giving us ultimate back for our ultimate, which is always nice. And that also heals you for 1 second for 2 seconds per additional corpse, and while slotted, damage taken is reduced by 3%. It's not much, but it's still something. Last ability, Skeletal Archer. Really, it is a really basic Necromancer setup, and it could actually work with some veteran content, however, if you change up the gear, that is. I'm using pure RP gear, and it's mainly for the aesthetics and the names itself, so this one could not perform min-maxingly nice, but still performs nice. For the ultimate, I'm using this ultimate more than the other one, is Pummeling Goliath. And the reason I went with Pummeling Goliath is the the bash attack, which deals damage in a cone. However, if you don't like this morph, go with the other one, which heals you when there are enemies around you, and the damage you deal will heal you. But I went with this one because, you know, bone spikes all around me while bashing. Always nice to do that. So, any other alternatives? Perhaps if you don't like the Bone Goliath and just want to summon things and don't want to transform yourself, you can go with the Reanimate and go with the morph that actually summons 3 skeletons. However, the ultimate will cost quite a bit to cast, so I don't recommend it that much. You could always try out being a vampire and go with that ultimate, or you can just go with the Soul Magic and Soul Strife ultimate. Perhaps if you can just play around and do whatever you want, because the build itself is pure subjective. For our sets, I went with a weird setup actually. From the main set, or the main set piece, is monster set in this case, which made the foundation of this whole character, is Thorvokun basically. When you take damage from a nearby enemy, you summon a growing pool of the desecrated bile for 8 seconds. Enemies in the bile take disease damage every 1 second and are afflicted with minor maim and disease status for 4 seconds, reducing their damage done and healing received and health recovery. This effect can only occur every 16 seconds, and the damage scales off your maximum health, so it will not deal that much damage. However, we are just having this for the aesthetics and the small disease damage it provides. For our second set, we are using Karth Jack. This one is a crafted set from, I think it was Greymore, or was it something else? I can't remember honestly. I'm sorry for that. When enemies are afflicted with your alchemical poisons, they take disease damage every 1 second. The reason I'm using this set, for example, is just because of the disease damage, and since I have quite a bit of poisons. However, if you don't like poisons and want to go with more of the Periite aesthetics, you can always try on Plague Slinger. It is a beautiful set. When you take damage, you summon a Skeever Corpse, which will launch 5 poison balls over 5 seconds, which deals poison damage to the enemies. However, because it deals poison damage, I mean, it is a little bit contradictory considering I'm using poisons. I don't like the Skeever on the side on this particular character, because I'm trying to go with more of a dragon and bone-ish legacy, not rat. But you could try this set if you want to be more Periite focused, and I would not recommend the Necromancer class considering the lore itself. Periite is the Daedric Prince of the True Order, or the Taskmaster, so going with Necromancer is a little bit not his thing. Yeah. Anyways, for our third set I'm using Plague Breaker. Reason? Dealing direct damage to enemy who is not a plague carrier turns them into a plague carrier for 10 seconds, dealing disease damage, and if they are killed, they explode. Simple as that. For the back bar I'm just using Maelstrom Bow, so nothing too special. For any other alternative sets I could actually even recommend the Master's Bow because of the Poison Arrow ability. It increases your weapon and spell damage. However, if this is not your cup of tea, you could try out Vatron. Hidden Blade, if you don't like going with the Skull ability, you can always try out Vatron once, or even the two-handed. But even if you don't like any of these sets, maybe you just are interested in Plague Break and Thorvokun but don't know which middle set, there are a couple of alternatives. One of the alternatives is from Vatron's Hallows. It's called Pestilent Host. When you kill a corpse, it deals bleed damage over a couple of seconds. Could go nice with the with the Periite thing. However, if you don't want just raw numbers or whatever, you could always go with Swamp Raider. Adds weapon and spell damage to your poison and disease abilities. Could not go nice. If there's anything else I can recommend, honestly at this point, maybe if you don't like the Thorvokun theme but want to go with a Periite or just with disease balls and everything, you can always try with Velidreth. When you deal damage, you have a 20% chance to spawn 3 disease spores in front of you after 1 second, which deal 6000 disease damage each. And to increase the number of disease spores, you can always go with Widowmaker, I think, no? Widowmaker. When your alchemical poisons fire, you drop a poisonous spore which deals poison damage. However, this one is not poison, not disease, but it's poison. It drops the big ass green ball it offers. So all in all, you can try out, play around, see what's your cup of tea or whatever. And yeah, now for CP. For our CP, under the craft skill line, I went with Treasure Hunter because my character used to be a treasure hunter in general. Rationer for a little bit more food duration, liquid efficiency using potion or poison. Do not consume it, but I mean, you know, personal stuff. And Steed's Blessing, which increases my movement speed outside of combat. I like it personally. You can go whatever the heck you want. If you want more mount speed, you could just go Gifted Rider or just play around, really. For Warfare, you want Reaving Blows. The only reason I'm using it is because it heals me a little bit, so it's a little bit easier to survive when you're going around and having a hard time not surviving. For example, maybe you dropped out Vigor and just want to rely on your own character with the risk of dying. Reaving Blows could give you that small edge of healing, but not too much healing to ruin your experience. I would recommend immediately Master at Arms, which is direct damage, and Reaving Blows scales off your direct damage to heal. I went with Biting Aura on this one, which is basically the area effect. The reason is the 2 main skills which deal disease damage on our character is area effect, basically. And Thaumaturge, which is damage over time, and disease damage over time. Everything else, purely subjective. You could always even drop out these if you don't like them, if you can't have them. Doesn't make a difference. For fitness, the main one I recommend every time, Bloody Renewal if you're a stamina character, and Siphoning Spells if you're a magic character. I went with both because I like them both, and since my Boneyard usually uses Magicka, and for example if you dropped out Vigor and slotted on the Ghost Healing, you could always have some Magicka back to actually utilize those skills more often than not. I went with Boundless Vitality to increase my maximum health, and Fortify to give me a little bit more of armor to survive even more as a node. However, if you don't like them and want to go with the more group-oriented, you could try out Spirit Mastery, decrease the time it takes to resurrect an ally, You can combine it with other sets to decrease the time to resurrect allies and just play around, really. Up to you. Maybe you want to go with the bone armor from the Undaunted skill line and have even more bones around you. You can go with Shield Master or anything shield related. Honestly, CP, everything is basically subjective, and because it is a role-playing build, go whatever the heck you want. If you want to copy mine, go for it, buddy. If you don't, go for it, buddy. Go whatever the heck you want. For our fashion, I went with Thorvald. It is a very, 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 very beautiful style, and I'm super glad I got it actually this time in the motifs. However, if you don't have it, you can just clear it if you wear the monster set and just have it itself. For the main 5 armor pieces, I'm using Dragon Bones, as you can tell. However, if you don't own the Dragon Bone style, because it is limited to the collector's edition of Elsewhere, I think it was, you could always go with Scale Collar, which is also bone oriented. It has a little bit of that aesthetics. You can combine it with bones, and it actually relates more to Dragon Priest than the other one, and Period itself. However, you could always try out, if you want to go a little bit more necromancy than not, you could try out Fanglayer or Fanged Horn. Or was it? Can't remember. However, another option I could recommend is Chitinous. If you dye it correctly, it could look like bone instead of a chitin. Yeah, it looks like bone, alright. Goes well with the shoulder piece, and it shows off your tattoos. At this point, I'm kind of overdoing with my tattoos and the skin, so I'll probably take off the skin just for the aesthetics. For armor pieces, I am using Thorvald daggers and the Thorvald bow. It was a arm pack, I think it's a couple of months since it was released, and yeah, it's just Thorvald. There's literally not much to say. However, you can always try out maybe even Selene, if you want to go a little bit more pesty, if that's your thing. Or if you don't own it, you can always go with Scale Collar, Dragon Bones, and anything bone related. Some alternatives I can give you is basically Fanglayer, Fanged Worm. You can try out some Necromancer. Here's a Bone Dragon if you want to go light. Horn Dragon looks very beautiful for the helmet, a little bit more Dragon Priesty. However, I have another character planned for the Dragon Priest aesthetics, so I'm not going to recommend this one that much. Except if that's up to, you know, your cup of tea. Scale Collar also looks very nice, has that bone aesthetics on it. However, if you don't own any of them, you could just play around, see what tickles your fashion sense. You could try it with something more simple if you want to go with the hoodie, some style to make your Necromancer a little bit more elegant, but my Necromancer is less elegant and more freaky and crazy. So yeah. For the mount, I'm using, where is it? Felines, no, where's the well? Yeah. Dragon Scale, Barded Wolf. For the pet, I'm using Grizzly Bannekin Monkey. Monkey. He's a monkey. For the tattoos, I recommend mainly, I'm using the legendary tattoos in this case. Let me just equip this. However, the skin, I kind of forgot to take it off. I went with these ones, the legendary, because it radiates the green aura. It is currently available, I think still is, but I'm not sure. Yeah, Frost, yeah, 20 hours left. You can get it under legendary. No, it's not legendary. I think it's under epic. Yeah, here they are. Legendary Dragon body marks and Legendary Dragon face marks. The only reason I'm using these are because it glows green. However, you can play around and use the Periite skin if you have it. Adds you a little bit more of that diseased look. However, I'm not going to use it because I like my character too much for that. For the hairstyle, I'm using Covenant Warlocks. Everything else is just Legendary Dragon, and for personality I'm using Worm Wizard. It's just Necromancer. If you don't have it and want to go a little bit more adventurous, you can always go with, or if you're not a Necromancer itself, you can go with Deadlands Firewalker. It looks more ominous. If you don't have that and want to go a little bit more adventurous, Treasure Hunter. If you don't have that one, just go whatever the heck you want. Really. Make your own character fit. I'm just here to give a couple of ideas. You can even go with Bullheart Skull. Looks a little bit more menacing and even more insane than the other one. Crow Heart, if you want to be a little more witch oriented, looks very beautiful with the whole aesthetics. Deathgrin Skull, if you want to go a little bit of revealing eyes. I think it looks best with Dark Elves and Argonians and Orcs. I hate Orcs. Yes, I'm a racist when it comes to Orcs. However, it does look very good on Orcs itself. You could always go with Grave Robber or honestly whatever you like or want. However, this is the iteration I'm going to be using. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.